to Creativity Rules.
Thank you.
Um, so, Tim,
Thank you.
I went through your website, and there are more than couple of interesting things on your website. There is one part which really talks about your expertise and in-depth knowledge about inciting change management, and you've articulated it very well. You said you help teams win through change, and the fact that you do that exceedingly well, and the fact that you have clients like Ferrari, 3M, Visa is a testimony to your expertise. But then there is
Thank
an
you.
other part of it. The other part is, firstly, I must tell you, your website looks really cool, very avant-garde. And I do see that you have a funny element and you use levity very effectively. For example, you're saying that this picture makes me look old, or I look like a Batman, or for the fact, I really like this one, giant spotlight into a cloudy night sky, or you can click that chat button to talk to me. And then you say, I'm a button for people with no time to read a lot. So let's demystify it bit by bit. So, my first question is, what's the reasoning behind the picture that you have? Because that does make you look, I won't say older, but yeah, 10 to 15 years mature. So, is it like a lot of special effects? Did you want the picture to be that way?
No, I that picture I blame a photographer in India. So I was at yeah, I do. I blame India for it. I was speaking in a conference in Delhi,
Yeah,
and this is only the beginning of last year, before we shut everything down.
yeah.
And so it was one of my last conferences live. One of the last conferences live, I think, was in Delhi, and then I went to Adelaide and spoke at a conference there. And after that, I flew back in, and as I landed in Singapore, everything shut down. But in Delhi, that we had a photographer there. I think it was in Was he in Delhi? Did I get it done in Delhi? Either way, I got photos done in Delhi. I also got photos done by an Indian photographer from. There was another one from, I think it was either from Chennai or Bangalore,
Yeah.
who turned up in Singapore and shot me as well at a conference. Anyway, whatever it was, um, he put some makeup on me for the shoot, and then which I'm okay with, because I've been on stage before, and you got to do that. But for whatever it was the lighting and the makeup and me, that for some reason I look older, and I like it because I do start my keynotes with here's what I look like when a professional photographer takes my photo, but I look older in this photo, which is different to all the other speakers who put a photo of themselves on their website where they're 20 years younger, and they don't look anything like that anymore. It's a sort of
Yeah.
black and white photo when they looked awesome, and now they're sort of got a walking frame and their teeth have fallen out.
Hmm.
So I thought I'd put an older photo of myself. The good news is I can grow into that photo and beyond, which means I don't have to change my website for 20 years.
Yeah, that's a plus point. And where does the inspiration of Batman and a frog story come from? The levity is intentional, or how does it work?
Okay, so the levity is very intentional because I want people to get to know who I am,
Yeah.
and there's a and part of so for example, here's a great exercise for anybody watching this, and that is to send a message out to 20 people. Choose 20 people that know you,
Hmm.
family members as well as business colleagues, etc., and ask them, choose 5 words that you think best describe me, my brand, or what really best embodies me. I'd really love to know, and I did that exact exercise. Now
Hmm.
there's there's other ways that you can do it using things like the Johari window. So there's a website called myjohariwindow.com. You can go there, and and you choose words that are already there. But I wanted to ask them to choose words without me giving them the words to choose from. I said,
Hmm.
choose 5 words that you think best describe me. And I didn't say 5 positive words either. I just said 5 words that best describe me. And I asked my mother, I asked my brothers, I asked my some close friends, plus I asked some business colleagues, some people in the speaking industry that know me as a speaker, but those people also who are my clients, I asked as well. I said, I'm doing an exercise, and if you could send me the 5 words. By the way, the other thing I did for some of them is I would say, please choose 5 words that best describe me. By the way, when you do, I will be giving a chicken to a farmer in Kenya, which is automatically idiotic thing to say, but I did. So because it also encourages them to do it. If not for me, then for some farmer in Kenya to get a chicken. Um, and 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 so and I can circle back to why I do the chicken thing in a little while, but I invariably got 5 words, and then I just put all the words that everybody used in an Excel spreadsheet, and I started to look for the themes that were in the words, because effectively you want to convey your brand on your website, or you want to convey who you are and what you're like on your website. Otherwise, your website's going to be exactly the same as everybody else's website. And if we're talking about creativity, then we need to be sharing with people in a creative way, I guess, or in a way like a website, which is sort of a static, almost impersonal thing. I want to convey as much of the person of me as possible, and a very big part of who I am is humor, and wittiness, and making people laugh, and sharing. When somebody hires me to go and speak for their audience, so I do professional speaking and speak around the world, like you were saying in the introduction, and those clients hire me to convey a message, to move an audience, to get them to think, and to get them to enjoy the session. So sometimes a company might have a town hall where they get 1,600 of their people in one room. Certainly before COVID, they would do this. Now they do it on Zoom, for example, or hybrid events now. And what would happen is, the CEO would get up and go, here's our vision and everything else, and we did well or terribly last year, whatever they want to say. And then the COO will come up and say, here's some operational initiatives we've got coming. The CFO will go, we're doing okay with finances. The sales guy will come on and do a bit of, here's some awards for all our salespeople. They're the only ones who are allowed to get awards. Everybody else gets awards for not getting fired. So this person's been here for 25 years. Let's give them an award. But the salespeople, they all get awards for achieving targets and stuff like that. And everyone has to sort of sit through this going, I've been told to be here. I'm here. I'm just going to thank God for mobile phones. I'm going to play with this thing for a while. And then they bring me on, because one of the things the CEO wants to do, or the COO or the sales manager or somebody, is they want to put in some big change. They want to change something. Possibly they want to change everyone's performance from here to here. But also they might want to do a technological change or some other change, or they're going to move to the new office or whatever it is. So they get a change expert to come in and say, hey, it's okay. This is a good thing. This is, and they don't want this person to be equally as monotonous, or they want them to add light, life, laughter, energy, spark into this day, to make this day memorable. So that one of the reasons why they get me is, apart from me being very good at communicating the message of change in an effective, motivating, thought-provoking, and resistance-lowering way, but that I do it with a lot of fun. And one of my signature ones for a live one is I get 5 people out of the audience and they do an Olympic sprint across the stage with all of these hang-ups. So some person's like, hobbling across the stage. Somebody else is racing off in the wrong direction. It's all this madness happening on stage that people are going, what on earth is it? But it all ties in beautifully, and everyone's laughing, and I'm connecting with the audience by using the audience on the stage in a very creative way, that to build that bridge with the audience faster, I bring the audience up on stage with me. The audience associate with their audience members. They're laughing at it and they're listening to my message. And when people feel comfortable enough to let their guard down and laugh, you can actually address them beyond their defenses, where they go, this makes sense to me. Let's do it. Yeah.
So, Tim, it's a very interesting facet which you spoke about, using levity effectively. Does it come with a certain kind of fear that if I'm deploying levity or humor, that the audience may think of you as being trivial? Because a lot of times we are traditionally being conditioned to think of a motivational speaker or any award-winning speaker as a person who comes with a halo behind their head and who are very self-realized. They're going to speak really reflective thing. So does that fear at times weigh on your shoulders?
No, it doesn't weigh on my shoulders because nobody's told me that that's why they didn't pick me.
Good point. Huh.
So
Yeah.
when they choose me, it reinforces the fact that whatever I'm doing is okay. And when they don't choose me and don't tell me why, I'm ignorance is bliss. But the other truth is that from a motivational perspective in particular, it is unlikely that the same motivational speaker will be brought back year after year. They'll usually be brought back after a 3 to 5 year gap.
Sure.
Partly because the organizing committee of next year's one
Yeah.
wants to do things differently to last year's one, and they're not just going to repeat the same everything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what value have they brought to the organization? So, in a sense, you don't have to hold on to the client. You can actually share it with other speakers, and that diversity of style and opinion and sharing, and it's not as if, I mean, using humor is it's a skill that not everybody has,
Yeah.
but
I agree.
but but on their website they'll all say they have it.
They all say they have it.
They'll all say he's very humorous, very funny on their website, but they may not actually be humorous or funny at all. And the reason
Yes.
why they say that is for the reasons why when somebody's going, we want somebody that's going to entertain them as well as move them. We want it to be enjoyable, not a university lecturer coming up and standing behind the podium the whole time or reading off 16 pages of notes
Yeah.
going into the intelligentsia of why somebody should intellectually, fundamentally have a synaptic movement towards whatever the change is. We want somebody to engage our people, to move them through humor, through intellect, and to deploy humor very. This sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but when I watch comedians, there's a lot of creative intelligence going into structuring the delivery of
Absolutely.
a piece that really works. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. So to actually deploy it well is challenging. But so you either do it in a practiced way or you end up being reasonably naturally good at it. And I'm fortunate enough to be reasonably naturally good at it, mainly because of a life and death situation that happened roughly when I was between 7 and 10.
You have seized me right into that trap. So, what was that life and death situation? I
Oh, I'm
like the
glad you asked.
conversation. Like you're deciding the questions for me.
I'm glad you asked. I was I can't remember how old I was. My usual go-to is I was 7, but now I have a 5-year-old. I think I probably wasn't 7. I might have been closer to 10 years old, 10 or 11. Anyway, it was late at night. My job was to pretend to go to sleep so my little brother went to sleep, and then I could get up and come out and watch TV with my mum. And at the time when I came out of the bedroom, my mum was there watching television, and she was watching the news, and somebody had been murdered. This was in Malaysia, and the news was on. Somebody had been killed, and I hadn't been exposed to that a lot. These days, everybody's exposed to it on Netflix and everything else. But at that time, it was just free-to-air TV, and I hadn't been exposed to it a lot. And I asked my mum, who was intently watching the news. I asked her, why did somebody kill him? Very innocent question. Why did somebody kill him? And my mum was so focused on the news, she wasn't really focused on me. I went, Mum, why did somebody kill him? And then she sort of looked and went, oh, probably because they didn't like him. Like, it was just a throwaway line, but to me, it was this sort of like this moment of, you mean if somebody doesn't like me, they could kill me? And so then my 10-year-old brain was like, how do I make everybody like me? Everybody has to like me. How do I make everybody like me? And one of the ways was, at the time, it was, how do I make my parents like me? Not that I thought my parents were going to kill me, but that for them it was like I just had to outperform at school. I had to be the smartest. I had to win the medals in the sports day. I mean, in Malaysia, I was bigger than everybody else, so it was easy for me to win the medals. When I was born, for example, the nurses called me King Kong because I was this huge baby, and all the other babies in the hospital were small. But so I thought I need to be smarter and everything else. But as that got to boarding school, that didn't work so much, and it kind of shifted to I need to be funny. If I can make people laugh, there's a good chance that they're not going to kill me. And I didn't quite think this through in that logical manner, and I hadn't really processed it until years later when I was challenged at a conference to think of what my primary driver was, and it had been how do I make people like me, and then it morphed into how do I make people laugh. Then it morphed into asking the primary driving question, which was what's funny about this. Any moment, what's funny about it? The only problem with that is I was looking for what's funny about everything all the time. But what that happened is it just wired my brain to find stuff that was funny. So I would find things funny in the most inappropriate places. I mean, I was at funerals and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. But then I had to learn the art of discernment. Like you can't say you can't deliver it at the funeral. It's not going to work so well. I tried a couple of times. It didn't work so well in funerals. And it just got to the point where I just went, okay, well, I just got better at discerning when to deploy humor. But I still, in here, still finding what's funny about this, what's funny about it. So that's where I think it's come from. So for me, from a creativity side, that's working away. I've got this like little rig in the back of my head working away to find out stuff that's funny and just offering it up. And if I want to use it, I can, but otherwise I don't. So the Batman thing on the website came from me writing a whole series of videos about to help people in sales training, weirdly enough, where I basically was Batman. In these videos, I was every character. I was Batman, Darth Vader, Robin Hood, Santa Claus, Mickey Mouse, Dracula. I was all these characters, sometimes 4 characters on the same screen. And I'd written this whole series where I was these characters. But also post university, I did some work at Movie World, Warner Brothers Movie World on the Gold Coast in Australia, where I worked I was in the Batman part of the theme park. I mean, it was just, I wasn't Batman then, but I was Batman's assistant, which was a little bit annoying, which is possibly why I had to write all those things where I actually was Batman later. That's why I put it on my website, because I want to show this is part of who I am, and I enjoy my work. I enjoy this interview. I enjoy presenting on stage for people, and I enjoy being a student who then contributes idiotic comments but just comes up with levity. I enjoy that. So I enjoy the process of being in the audience and being on stage, and as a result, I know what I like, and I'm very observant I did psychology at university, but I'm observant anyway to see what's working, what isn't, and what needs to change on stage to be able to shift the room to get the outcome that the event organizer is really looking for.
So, Tim, I want to know from you that you've led this, from the looks of it, really multifaceted careers in life. You were born in Malaysia, but actually you're an Australian, and right now you're living in Singapore. So that's one end of the diverse exposure. The other end is that you've been leading organizations. You've worked at Warner Brothers, doing some work in the capacity of Batman or related to it.
That was ages ago, but okay, yep.
Which is so endearing. And then we also saw one video where you were, I think, Robin Hood in 2 characters and channeling your inner actor. And then all this culminates into you being a transformational leader. Now, transformational as a term is so overused, but I'm sure when you articulated that for you, it must have not been a very straightforward journey. So could you help us traverse through your journey about your different careers, your growing up years, and what led you to this point and time in your life that leads you to do what you do today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess the super fast version was I grew up in Malaysia. I was sent to boarding school in Australia, and then I went to university in Queensland where I studied psychology and business. I came out of that with a science degree in psychology and went into the business world. And I started at the bottom as frontline person, and then I moved my way up through the organization, and and I went through the organization through lots of different changes. There was one organization where where we had 1,600 employees, and I went on a holiday to Austria and came back, and there was only 16 left. Everybody got fired. I mean, there was a deregulation in the market, so the organization wasn't relevant anymore. And I think I might have also got fired, except that they couldn't find me because I was in Austria. So I still had a job when I got back. There was 16 left. And that was a massive change. And I remember when it was sort of starting to happen that I just noticed some leaders were just handling it really badly, and others were handling it really well. And I was the employee, and I was just noticing. And then I moved into Directory's organization in Melbourne, and I was working there, which is really where I cut my teeth into leadership and management and looking after teams and the whole sort of corporate machine and how it all worked. But I was there when Google started. So I was working for a directory, kind of like Yellow Pages, when Google started. And Google basically was a Yellow Pages killer. And I saw again how different people in the organization were reacting to this big change. It was a huge organizational threat, but at the same time, the organization had there was a window of opportunity to respond. Google hadn't captured the market as much as it did now, and they were really coming in to take on the directories market. And I just saw how change was managed well and managed badly, and I saw myself on both, doing things that I went, no, that's ineffective, doing things that really worked, and just learning about change and how to deliver it. And then I had to deliver it to people as part of my journey as a leader, and had to let some people go, which was like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do as a leader. But how do I do that with compassion and empathy, and leave them with hope and a positive vision of the future, and that this will be a good thing for them. And then I experienced that exit as well, and I moved into the consulting world, and then I started consulting to businesses in Australia, which then took me off to Hong Kong, where I worked for a niche consulting firm in Hong Kong, and one of the clients there was a bank in Singapore, which moved me to Singapore eventually, as I was dealing with that bank. And then that bank, as the consulting firm was wrapping up, I moved to work with the bank and started my own business in Singapore. So I had my business in Australia, and then I had a business. I was part of a consulting firm in Hong Kong, and then I had my business in Singapore. And that whole journey of multiple transformations and change, with me either in the change as somebody impacted by the change, or as a leader of the change as part of the leadership team rolling out the change, or as a consultant consulting to multiple organizations across Asia, from China to Taiwan to Korea to here in Singapore, to different parts of Asia. And to then having my business here in Singapore, it was natural for me to be talking about motivating people and leading change. And the two really go together, because, I mean, why do I want to motivate someone? Well, I want them to change from doing what they're doing to doing what I want to motivate them to do. So there was an element of personal change required, and there was an element of organizational change that was going to happen to them. So then how do we deal with resistance in a creative way, and how do we deal with change and communicate the message of change in an effective way that shortens the resistance cycle and increases the the speed for which we can realize the benefits of the change. Because nobody goes, we're here at the moment, we want to put in this change so that we end up down here. No, we want to put in the change so that things will be better, things will go up. And as a result, but there's usually this dip before we get to that higher performance level as people are embracing the new change. So how do we speed that up? And I just drew on all my experience of going through it and understanding it and thinking about the psychology of it to go, well, I can share some things here that's going to help people. But what I noticed when I was consulting is I need to teach them how to do it. I need to teach the leaders how to do it. And my style is I want to impart my knowledge into the leaders in the organization so that they don't need me, so that they can do it themselves. I mean, that's the opposite of what a consulting firm wants to do. A consulting firm wants to embed themselves in the organization so that they can add value while extracting cash. They can do that transaction for as long as possible. So if they can embed themselves in, it's a great client to be, it's a lucrative revenue generating client. But for me, there's enough clients out there that need help. I figured if I can go in and really make a difference, how can I make that difference faster? And doing it creatively, doing it genuinely, doing it with purpose, understanding what the organizational vision is, but also where the people are at, and bridging the gap between a management team that may not be listening to the frontline team and a frustrated frontline team who how do we bridge that communication gap? And so that just as a result gave birth to me training leaders how to do it, sharing ideas from the stage that motivate the entire organization in one go, but also training the skills to be able to deliver this so that they can do it without me and get the result faster. I guess that's I guess in a weird way that's the life story. Yeah.
So, Tim, tell me something. Throughout these different stints that you had, right from the beginning of your career when you went to Austria, then working for these yellow directories, to leading teams and companies for change, how important do you think is deploying creativity for change management? Do you see any correlation between creativity and change management? Because at the end of the day, this show is about creativity. So, do
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
see any cause and effect linkage, and what are they?
Okay, well, first of all, any change is a innovative departure from what people are used to. So it's already, usually the change is some form of innovation or creativity. The challenge is that organizational structures are usually set up to reward success, and failure tends to be some sort of punitive level, whether it's your
Yeah.
performance management score suffers or you're put into sort of promotion jail for a while. Whereas innovation requires people to take risks that a certain percentage of them will fail. And when we're being creative with ways to deliver things, we need the agility and the flexibility to try creative approaches to solve problems. I mean, fundamentally, creativity is about communicating and solving problems in an organizational sense. We want to do something creatively to solve a problem. What is the problem we're solving? Well, our people are bored, so let's do something fun and creative. Okay, great. So actually the problem we're solving is morale and apathy or complacency, and we want to relight the fire so that it's there again. Okay, so let's help our people really reconnect with why we're here, what our purpose is, our vision, and just create this bubbling cauldron of passion. So it's really important. From a change side, we need to come up with creative solutions. We need to be able to risk. We need to be able to try things, and we can contain that risk by piloting the solution. We do that with a lot of the change stuff, and so we creatively come up with a way to be able to reduce the risk. Or we creatively come up with a solution that could be very I mean, in right now we're doing a lot of stuff online, and how do you get attention online? We creatively come up with ways to get attention. Now, some people do that in a hard sell way. Some people do it in a factual way. But one of the things that we do is we help people write articles about their message in a way that is creative and personal, and ends up getting them 3,000 readers of their article, which leads conversations, connections, and customers. Versus they put an article out and they get 7 readers and they're related to most of them. So, so, so how do we get 3,000 people? Well, you creatively tell your story with your business message in it. So creativity is fundamental. Creativity is fundamental from the marketing perspective. Look at ads on TV. The ones that work are the ones that are creative, not the ones that say our air conditioning is the one that's, it's coldest. I mean, that might actually be a funny ad because nobody does it.
Like a
But
meme, yeah.
yeah, something like that. But it's like creativity sells, and and comedy creates shareability. So if you can be funny as well as creative, then people are going to share it to go take a look at this. Because in a world of, we're competing with the news. The news is just miserable. So let's put out something that's entertaining and valuable. How do I share a solution with you? I may have all the solutions for you in the world, but if you don't know who I am, and you can't have access to my solutions, then that's where we see a lot of really talented people just not being able to be commercial successes because they can't connect with the audience out there. So one way to do that is creatively telling your story with and binding that to your solution, having that your solution is part of the message, not, hey, today I had a really amazing experience at this shop, and by the way, here's my 3-step plan to solving your problem with your staff. I mean, that's got nothing to do with anything. That's like saying free beer. Oh, I just wanted your attention to sell you this other thing. That just annoys people. That's not creative. That's, it might have been creative the very first time it was done, but it's just a stupid example. So it's like, how do we be intelligent with our creativity to then help people see the value that we have, that we can share, that they need? Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question. It sounded convoluted.
Well, I think there are far too many triggers, so people will need to make sense of it, but it's appropriate. Tim, you said an interesting thing. You said from an organizational perspective, creativity is about communication and solving problems. But the first thing you said is about communication. So what makes communication critical for creativity? Because I see a lot of people, firstly, number one misnomer is that if you are good at creativity, then you miraculously are good with art and craft. That's the first very superficial kind of understanding that I see. And I often see, let's say, some of my family friends who paint really well, and I say, why don't you sell it? They say, it's my personal expression. It's not there. It's not to be put out there. But what I feel underlying is somehow they don't know how to commercialize their creativity. So there are 2 parts of the question. First is what makes communication so critical for creativity? And the second part is, what is your take on creativity in the simplest terms, not organizational, nothing professional, but in the most simple terms, what is creativity for you, Tim?
So the first one, so the example you gave about the person who's painting, that's a really good example, because that example usually shares, there's about 3 things in there I can pick out of that example as to why it's valuable to unpack. One is One is, oh no, this is just my expression. I don't really want to sell it. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. Um, One is they don't value their talent as much as you do, as much as
Okay.
others might. When you're really good at something, naturally good at it, you may not realize its commercial value or its value to others. And you may be able you've just got it as a gift to be able to do it automatically, but others don't have that gift. Now I did a deconstruction of where I thought my humor triggers came from, but as a result, regardless of where they came from, I've still got it as a real talent to connect with audiences, to communicate effectively using humor really, really effectively. So, so this person who's painting the painting, they they may not recognize their value and why it's something that they can share with the world. They also may not recognize the impact it has on others and why it's valuable, why they're almost being selfish for not sharing it with the world.
Hmm.
They they may also have a fear, and their fear is if I put it out there, it won't be appreciated, and I love doing this, and I don't want the world to tell me that I'm not good enough. Which is I mean, it's possible. And the other one is their commercial acumen is as such that they've sort of nutted out going, well, if I paint this, it's going to take me 3 weeks to paint it, and if I sell it for $100, then I'm basically going to have to live off scraps.
Hmm.
If it takes me 3 weeks to earn $100,
Hmm.
so then it's like, well, then what would I need? I would need to sell it for $10,000, and then if that's the case, well, I don't think it's worth $10,000, and therefore, and they've done this whole sort of thing to go, no, it's not. I'm just going to do it because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And what it often takes sometimes is someone to secretly take away that piece of art, go to show it to someone, and get it appraised. Because I remember I did a gig once where I
Hmm.
was paid $10,000 for the gig, and I was pretty happy with that until I realized that the client had paid $25,000 for me. I got 10,000, but the client paid 25,000. And I was like, all of a sudden, I was flipping between I'm annoyed I didn't get $25,000 to wow, somebody paid $25,000. And at the end, they didn't go, I want my money back. They went, that was really valuable. Thank you very much. That was amazing. So then it was like, wow, I'm actually worth more than I thought I was worth.
Hmm.
And a lot of those things come out of accidents. So, you'll always get a mentor that just goes, well, how much do you charge? Okay, double it. And then you're like, I can't double it. What will happen if I double it? Nobody will hire me. I'll lose all my customers. I can't double it. But oftentimes you move into a different category of people taking you seriously. And they go, do I want a speaker to come and speak to my entire organization, the 3,000 people in the room for an hour? If you just work out everybody's salaries and the fact that I'm taking an hour of their time, do I want a speaker that's charging $500 or do I want a speaker that's charging 25,000? Now, this person is influencing, I don't know how many people I said, 3,000 people, 2,000, 5,000 people. They're going to influence these people, and I want them to help them make a shift. I want somebody who knows what they're doing.
Hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean you just go, oh my gosh, I'm going to charge 25,000 now. Well, you kind of got to be worth it. So then
Yeah.
there's this element of, you know, I need to have a look at what my value is, and have I been charging the same thing for the last 10 years, and maybe I need to put my prices up. So that's one part about valuing your talent. Don't be fearful. Having somebody else to sort of give it an independent appraisal, regardless of your own prejudices against your stuff. And the great thing is, with the world of internet marketing and everything else today, just putting it out there.
Yeah.
These what are they? The non-fungible tokens that are happening now, the NFTs, where people are paying millions of dollars for a GIF. I mean, quite frankly, you know, there's probably a market out there. So then your other question was about what is creativity. Look, one definition of it is take two existing things and put them together in an unusual way and come up with something new.
Hmm.
Like a surfboard and a parachute, and you end up with sort of parasailing or whatever
Yeah.
it is. You know, um, but or sail from a sailing boat and whack it on a surfboard, and you've got a windsurfer. I mean, so that's one way. But actually, creativity is, for me, it is not restricting yourself in the paths ahead to find the solution to the problem.
Not restricting yourself to the paths ahead to find a solution.
Yeah, because a lot of people say, well, these are the only paths you can choose from to find the solution. So they're restricting you to these, you can choose one of these three paths. Well, we've explored those paths. There isn't a solution in those paths. We need to remove the restriction so we can explore other ways to get there. A really interesting example was I landed in Saudi Arabia to do a series of speeches. And I was working there for, I was flying in there to do work with a bank there for 6 years, helping their junior leaders and mid-level leaders have to manage change and to lead even more effectively as the organization went through huge transformation. And anyway, I landed in Saudi Arabia in the middle of, in Riyadh, so it's in the middle of the desert, and it was raining, and it was raining a lot. And it doesn't rain a lot there, but it was raining a lot that particular time where everything was flooded. And the taxi driver, if you've ever been to Saudi Arabia, there's like one road, there's like one made road, which always is traffic, and then there's a few roads off it. But there's not a lot of options, but there are options. But everyone took the main road, and then all the cars were banked up. The actual underpass was flooded. All the cars are stuck on the overpasses and the bridges and everything else, and nobody could move because at one end the cars were stuck underwater, and then everything banked up after it was then stuck to the other end where the cars are. So there was just massive traffic jam, and I was in this particular instance I was flying out, and so I was heading to the airport in a taxi, and I was so fortunate that the taxi driver knew multiple ways to get to the airport, that they didn't take the only three paths to get to the solution, the main road to the airport, that they went, I think this is it's a bit too risky to go through here. And I was just sat there, and they decided they're going to take the long way. Well, the long way turned out to be the only quickest way. But if you looked on a map, it was this big ring going around the center of town, but it made a lot of sense. And we missed all the traffic. Well, we didn't miss all the traffic. We got stuck in some traffic, but we didn't get banked up like those ones in the middle, and I caught my flight home. So creativity is removing some of the limitations to our thinking. When people say, but when I say that, if you remove all the limitations, then we can get paralyzed by the fact that there's too many possibilities. So, for example, and I do this creativity exercise in my programs where I get the teams are all sitting at tables or they're in a breakout room or whatever it is, and I get them to come up with. Well, I want the fastest team to come up with 10 uses for a brick. A brick, and so then they all go and come up with 10 uses of the brick, and they come up with the first three are always the same. I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to throw it at someone. It's always the second one is always destruction and using it as a weapon, and then the third one is like I'm going to put it under my wheel or hold the door open or under the leg of a table or something. But then they sort of struggle with the last four to get to that 10. And then one team will win because they're all competing. They're sort of coming up with ideas, and the way of doing it is, whatever, they come up with these ideas. And then I go, okay, so that took you this long. Sometimes it takes them sort of 5-6 minutes to come up with 10 things. I mean, you would think it would take them a nanosecond, but anyway, but they all come to a grinding halt after they build a wall and throw it at someone. So then, smash a window. I mean, I don't have to break things with bricks, but we do. Then I give them the second challenge, which is, okay, well, now you got to come up with 50 things to do with a brick. Go. Now, after about 15, they've all come to a wild grinding halt again. And what I do is that people go, you got to be creative. You got to think outside the box. Well, coming up with 50 things is, think outside the box. But everyone is stuck outside the box. So what I usually share is you need to think outside your box, but think inside another box. choose another box to think in. So for example, for your brick, what can you use a brick for in a kitchen? And then they go, okay, so I'm in another box now. My parameters of creativity here are a kitchen. And so then they go, I could use it as an oven stone. I could use it to pound the meat. I could use it to as a those bricks with the 3 holes in them. I can put knives and forks in them, or put my condiments and cinnamon and all that sort of stuff in there. I could use it for, and they come up with all these things: a knife sharpener, or a knife bluntener, or whatever it is, something to hold the door open, or whatever to cook on, or something. And so they come up with all these things. And then I go, okay, great. What can you use a brick for in a boat? And then they come up with an anchor, a fishing line, tie it to a dead body and throw it in the river. I mean, seriously, they come up with that idea. Yep, they do. They use it as a weight to go scuba diving. They use it as ballast in the boat. They use it to usually throw at another boat. I mean, there's all these different things, and it's about removing the walls of limitation for you to get to the solution, but have some guiding definitions to help you get to that solution faster. If you were leading this department today and boom, you've been promoted, what would be the top 10 things that you would fix? What would you fix to help us get to our goals faster? And you'd be surprised with some of the answers. I mean, I did this in one of the places I was looking after. It was like more toilet paper in the women's toilets. I was like, really? And that's easy to fix. But in that particular one, that was a problem. And it was annoying people. And it was like, I didn't know about that. So it was just like, okay, well, let's fix it. Just get the facilities person in to drill in another toilet roll holder and put in another one. So we've got 2. So nobody will ever run out. And then just have some hook on the wall that holds 4, and then everybody's happy. So long as people aren't stealing the toilet paper, we're okay. And then another one was, we need to fix the chairs. The computer needs to be there. Our system is too slow because we have to go through 6 screens to get this one piece of information. If we could have that piece of information about the customer on the first screen, we would save probably 35 seconds per transaction, which over the 100,000 transactions ends up being a lot of staff wasted while we're waiting to go through 6 screens. For me, that was a really, really important one. And so it's like, okay, IT department, can you fix that? Can we just have a user interface where we just got that piece of data here? And they went, sure, yeah, we can do that. It's not hot on our list at the moment. It's a low priority. And I just went, okay, 100,000 people times 35 seconds equals how many hours equals how many full-time equivalent staff wasted while waiting for this. Boss, it's costing us 7 people per year waiting for this. If IT can fix that, we will save that. In other words, we don't have to hire them. We don't have to fire 7 people, but we don't have to hire 7 more as our business grows. And now you're speaking in the language of the decision maker, which is P&L or budgets or staff headcount, and you're going to get things approved. So you got to think, there's a creative side to that too. So it's like, ask people, what would you fix? And then we play some games about getting to know people, because one of the registration things was tell us something about yourself that nobody knows. And then we get, and I'm being ridiculously creative, and I'm coming up with the worst award possible. There's going to be a ridiculous award. It's going to be an annual award, which is going to be very similar to my Games Night award at home, which weirdly enough, I just have here. So let me just grab it. So this is my Games Night. This is my Games Night award at home, where and there's some rules to our Games Night. So there has to be at least 3 families playing. That is, members from 3 different families who have come over to play and we play board games like Catan, which I just think is a fantastic board game, or what are some of the what's the other one? Dominion. Dominion's a good game, and Citadel. Citadel is one of my favorites. Anyway, this is the coveted trophy, and it's a toilet plunger with a star on top. So it's a toilet plunger with a star on top, and you'll notice that the winners' names are written onto the thing. So each time somebody wins, their names go onto this amazing trophy, and it cost me $4. Now for this awards thing for the association, I'm going to kind of do the same thing because, first of all, I love the idea of a toilet plunger being the award because it's so stupid that everybody laughs. And then I'm just going to saw it off at the top, whack something for the association, spray paint the whole thing gold, and that's going to be their amazing award for the AGM games, which hopefully they will run every year after that. Whether or not it's with me, it doesn't matter. But they just make it this fun night. When everything is also super serious, then it's like, well, then you're telling everyone to come to the association to get and not contribute and not to connect and not to have fun. It's I'm going to sell to people, or I'm going to take something and learn from this association, rather than I'm going to contribute and connect and create a community of caring and growth and everything else. And to do that, we needed creativity to begin it.
It's like connecting the dots, just like a surfboard and parachute. You made a connection between an award and a toilet plunger. I can see creativity in action. And
Yeah, it's a $2 star. It's even broken on the back. I mean, it's $2 star attached to a toilet plunger. It seriously cost me $4 from a $2 shop.
Tim, as you explained and elucidated the different forms of creativity, you also mentioned about the correlation between creativity and change. I'm wondering, for you to arrive at this level of clarity in your life, did Tim have any shoddy or goofed up moments where you felt like, oh my God, why am I even doing this? Does it even make sense? And I would not say it was like moments of doubt, but it didn't make any sense to you. You failed miserably. But when you look back at those failures, goof up moments now, you think they came with their own sort of learnings, and you have to go through that awkward phase to really arrive at this level of clarity that you have today.
Yeah, I think a really good example of that, weirdly enough, might even be COVID for a lot of people, and that is, if something didn't go wrong or disrupt you, we probably wouldn't have learnt the thing that we needed to learn to get past that disruption or that goof up or that error or that mistake. And we would have just kept doing the same thing over and over again. So for me, one of the ones that happens is when I get tired of a particular keynote, like I'm not really finding much joy sharing this keynote anymore, then I will still, I mean, the audience would never know. I'll have fun, but then I'll come out of it going, yeah, I want to freshen it up again. So that sense of dissatisfaction, whether it's a failure or a flop or whatever it is, I mean, there was one, for example. I mean, there's lots of occasions where stuff has gone wrong. If you've been doing any endeavor for over a decade, there's going to be evidence of screw ups all the time. Things that didn't go wrong, logistical planning things. I mean, there was one event I did in the middle of a prison. So I was delivering to prison guards in a field in the prison under a tent. And so they said, well, what do you need? And I said, well, I'm going to need some flip chart paper because the projector screen, we won't be able to see anything because we're in a tent and it's going to be too bright.
Yeah.
So I'll draw it on flip chart paper. And so I turned up and they had flip chart paper. They just didn't have a flip chart. So then I'm like, it's like, so then you have to think creatively. How am I going to solve this problem very quickly? Because I'm going on stage in the next few minutes. And they go, well, here's your pens, here's your flip chart paper. And I said, where's the flip chart? And they go, we don't have a flip chart. And so I had prison wardens and prison staff standing there holding my flip charts while up on stage. So they're going, this is my beautiful volunteer, Jeff, and he's like, it's just this big prison guard holding a flip chart, and I'm explaining stuff. And then everyone gives Jeff a giant award. And I had them doing all this crazy stuff there as well, because anyway, so that was one where things go wrong. So that wasn't a goof up I mean, I guess it was a goof up for me because I didn't explicitly say I need something to hold the pieces of paper, please. I kind of assumed that one
They
equals
will
the other.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, but and so the learning out of that one was be a bit more specific and clear about what exactly I need so that that won't go wrong. And uh, I my most annoying one, I guess, if I really think back to it, was I had I've got this event where I was telling you I take five people out and they race across the stage in the Olympic sprint. Well, there was this one event for a senior team for this organization in here in Singapore, and the fellow who spoke to me about it saying we'd like you to come in and share with our senior team about this and about your ideas about this and this and this. And I go, okay, well, I could do it like this and like this and like this. What do you think works? Because this one, this and this and this would happen. And he went, yeah, that one. I want the one where, you're going to do this and you get people to do stuff and it's going to be great. And I went, okay, I'll do it. And I walked in and there was only 6 people in the room. So they were having their team meeting. And so I was just going to go, so if I take 5 people out of the audience, I'm going to have one person in the audience and everybody. But that's what the guy wanted, so I did it. But as I was doing it, I was like, this is not going to work. And I just felt like, oh, and the worst part was when I arrived and it was my time to go on, I was sitting outside and they were in the middle of a heated strategic debate about stuff that they need to be doing and everything else. And obviously the guy was like, well, we got the guy sitting outside, so let's get the guy, let's get him in and stop the debate. So they're in the middle of something, and then I come in and go, okay, so let's do this stuff where we get 5 people. And it was like, I mean, I think back of it now, it was just like, so I'm a bit more discerning about how many people are in the room before I know whether that's going to work. Because there was another event where there was 2,500 people in the room,
And you
and
took five.
the client said, I don't want you to do the thing on stage, but I want you to do the whole keynote without the bit where the 5 people are on the stage. I'm like, this is not going to work without the 5 people on stage, but okay. And I did it, and I was just like, it didn't work. It didn't work the way it was supposed to work. And I was like, but I got a fantastic photo out of it, but it wasn't one of my favorite events.
Intense.
It wasn't. And, there's, but there's been times where I've been genuinely surprised about. I mean, a lot of times, I'll get the event organizer going, well, this is Japan. Japan, you're not going to get 5 people aren't going to do that on the stage in Japan. And I went, yeah,
Yeah.
they will. I know they will, because I will give them permission to play. And they did. And it was one of the funniest ones the racing around the room and stuff, it was hilarious. And everyone absolutely loved it. And it was me and a translator. I had the translator having to translate everything. I said, you would think it would be even harder, but it was fantastic. So over time, I got better and better at discerning when certain elements of my keynotes are going to would be the best to deploy. And so I have a lot of tools, and I choose which one is going to have the right impact at the right time for the audience at that moment. And there was one, for example, it was a major bank here in Singapore, and I had to deal with I had to do a keynote for their super high net worth. This is their staff that looked after ultra high net worth customers. So their customers are like billionaires, and the staff are there, sitting there, and there'd been some changes. Let's put it that way. This
I
is a
like
number
how
of years
your
ago.
baritone dropped when you said changes.
Yes, well, there'd been some changes. Well, okay. So the changes were a bunch of people have been let go from the organization, from that team, and now they're in a group. And it had happened only like 2 days earlier or the day before. Like a bunch of their staff had left. They'd been asked they're gone, nope, you're gone. They didn't hit their thing or whatever it is. And the CEO or whoever, I think it was the CEO, was fed up that they were complaining about this. And just before my session, CEO went up and went, look,
This is
stop
interesting.
complaining. If you don't like it, then you can bloody well go as well. because this and this is what's going to happen. We had to make a decision. They had to go, and they didn't hit this, and they didn't hit that. And now let's get our motivational speaker Tim on to speak to you. And and then I'm just like, oh my goodness. And at that so when I'd spoken to them, they said, yeah, let's not do the race across the stage thing or whatever it is. But as I came up, I was like, okay, I'm switching this. I need to break the mood. For me to be able to be effective, I need to change their mindset right now, and we're going to do that with this activity where I got them to do this stuff, and they were laughing and they had fun, and it brought them back to getting them past. I mean, they were grieving for the loss of their friends, I suppose. That they thought it was unfair, and it might have been, but these are commercial enterprises making these sorts of cutthroat decisions, and they did whatever they decided to do. My job was to help these people through another type of change that we're talking about, and help motivate them to higher levels of performance. And so I just needed to change. I mean, there's stuff they're curveballs that are thrown to you sometimes, where you got to think creatively on your feet at the time and draw upon the resources in your toolkit to go, okay, right now I thought I needed a hole in the wall and I needed this drill, but actually what I need is this tool instead to solve the problem. Yep.
So, Tim, is it safe to say that creativity is a blend of being prepared as well as being spontaneous? Because a lot of anecdotes which you just mentioned, you had prepared yourself in a certain way, conditioned your mind in a certain way, but when you went upstage, something completely different unfolded. So is creativity being completely certain about the fact that there are going to be a lot of uncertain things happening on the stage? Do you have that kind of comfort now that something completely different can unfold?
Oh yeah, I mean, and you can't always predict what's going to happen. I mean, I've had audience members like this when I've done something on stage, but it worked. For example, there was one event where I got people to write down on a card and shove it in a balloon, blow the balloon up, and then they had to hit it around the room. And whatever balloon they had, they picked out somebody else's wish for the year or thing they were most proud of. So I got them to write the thing I was most proud of for the year just gone, and my prayer for the year ahead, something I'd really like to accomplish or achieve. And one person was very proud of their how they developed on their piano lessons or something or other. And I was like, whose was that? And there was this one woman put her hand up, and I said, so tell me, what was it, the piano thing? And then she would go, oh yeah, I'd been practicing and doing this. And I go, are you any good? And she goes, well, I was like, well, come up on stage. We've got a piano just here. Start playing the piano. And that's when the organizer was like, what if she can't play the piano? What if she's terrible? What's he going to do? It's like they were out of control. But for me, it didn't matter how she performed on stage. I was still going to make her a hero. If she came up and tried it and was terrible, I would go, that's somewhere between awesome and terrible. I mean, I don't know what I would have said, but I would have made her a hero to go, thank you for the courage to come up and do that. It was amazing. Yeah. Give her a giant round of applause for having the courage to come up and do that. And that's what it's going to take to reach your dreams for next year, and the courage and everything else. It turned out she was great. And she just played amazingly. And I was just like, that's amazing. Give her a giant round of applause. Either way, she was going to be the hero, right? So it was either she was great, it was courage, or she was actually really good. And then I still celebrated the courage part of it as well. And the point was to take a positive risk, to go out and do something interesting. And my remit on that particular stage was to connect with the audience, make it engaging, do it something fun, make it a bit unusual. just as a thing. With the blowing up balloons one, there's a heck of a mess at the end. You got to clean up all these broken pieces of balloons, that people's saliva and everything else. So just I mean, I could go, okay, well, I'm done. See, enjoy cleaning up. But yeah, so you try and sort of say to people, grab bits of the balloon, just chuck it in the bin on your way out and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess to clean up. So, but it's still fun, and the photos of the balloons going everywhere and everyone standing up hitting the balloons, amazing photo. And I've talked about the photos a couple of times. The photos are really important because the event is a moment, but the photo is something that carries that moment
For a
further. It
very long
helps it
time.
last. And if you can create photo moments, and that's been creative in that event, something where, where I will if I'm getting people racing across the stage, I will find the photographer before I go up. One of the things I'll do is I'll go, who's the photographer of the event? You're the photographer. What's your name? Your name's Jeff. Everyone's called Jeff. So you're Jeff. Okay, Jeff. So I'm going to do this thing where they're going to race across the stage. I want you to come up on the stage behind me and take the photo of me there with these people and the audience clapping. Because the audience will be clapping or singing or doing something or other. I get them to sing at the end sometimes. So they're all going to be doing that. Come up on stage and do it. Now that's good for two reasons. One is most of the photos of me, if I don't tell them to do that, will be from the back of the room, bunch of people's heads, and this tiny little blip of me on stage doing something.
I like
Right?
the description. Yeah. But you look
Yeah.
like a cat in a wig. Yeah.
Or come back behind me. I'm
The
there.
magnitude.
You
Yeah.
don't really see my face, but I don't want them to see my face. I want them to see the audience smiling and clapping and having a great time, because that says I did a great job. Not a photo of me on a big stage, but the audience's response. So I then will manufacture that photo by making sure that the photographer captures it.
And whenever
Because the
you
photographer doesn't think that they have permission to come up on stage.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was saying, whenever you have to click a perfect picture, you come in India and click those amazing close-up pictures with some amazing makeup on. Okay,
And I look 15 years older. Yeah.
that's an art.
Yeah.
Tim, as we come towards the culmination of our show, I want to know from you, over a period of time, what are some of your practices that you have recently figured or you have made sense of, that what are a few simple things that people can do to really harness their creativity or to really get started on their journey of creativity? Because a lot of times when I speak to these different miscellany of people, some of them say, oh, I am a chartered accountant, I don't need to be creative because my work is supposed to be banal in the long run. Or let's say I'm a CEO, I have people working for me, so I don't need to be creative, my people need to be creative. Or I'm at mid managerial level, I just have to get certain work done through my expertise, I don't need to be creative. So I feel that the level, the context that they are serving is different, but there is some aversion or some of the other excuse to say, I don't need to be creative and creativity is not really relevant in my realm. So for those people to experiment with few ideas to really get started in their journey of creativity, what those ideas could be, what those rituals or practices could be according to you.
Well, the first one is, the first hurdle is, I guess, is for them to acknowledge that just because, they may think that they're not creative and they haven't used creativity to get to where they are.
Yeah.
But if they think of creativity as a way to better engage with their people, any leader wants to work out a way to engage with their people better. They don't necessarily want to sit in they might feel that they want to sit in an ivory tower and just sort of bark commands and all their people go away and do it. But actually, it's about relationship. If you want to go from C level to board level, it's relational. It doesn't mean that you have to do silly things, but you can still do things creatively. You can get everybody to going on a leadership retreat and going somewhere different is being creative. Let's get out of the office and go to another part of the country or somewhere else, and let's just have an offsite where we can distance ourselves from that normalcy, and we can have a facilitator in who takes us through some activities, or we have, even if it's just at a dinner, you just have a couple of you have a couple of games, or you start your meeting with something a little bit different. So let's do a really conservative one. Let's say you have your weekly or bi-weekly meeting with your other execs or your team. Maybe it's with your team. And you say to them, tell me what was one fantastic thing that happened for you this past week? What's your high point of the week? What's your low point of the week? Now that's challenging. A lot of people are happy to share their high point because they can sort of beat their chest and say, I'm so glad we hit our numbers or something or other. But what's your low point for the week? And now, why would you ask that? Well, you ask it because you kind of want to know what's troubling them, where they struggled, and that there's an element of vulnerability where we are building trust. Because to build trust in our team, there needs to be some vulnerability. And if you're the leader, you might go first for this one, because you're talking about your low for the week. Because whatever you say will dictate the terms of it. And maybe your low for the week was, my low for the week was, and you might talk about how your kid fell over and broke their finger or something or other. And that was, it was disconcerting or whatever it was. I mean, it could be a personal low, or it could be my low for the week was that we lost that customer and it really impacted me. Or my low for the week was that, 3 of our staff left and we didn't want them to leave, but they did. And it's just been tough. Now, it shares, it does two things in the world of coaching. One of the really effective things to start a coaching session is to clear the space, because your mind's cluttered with the stuff that's just bothering you right now, or the opportunity or your to-do list. And it's just like, let me just get that off my chest, jot it down. Here's some things that I just want to let go of right now so that I can be fully present in this session to be able to help you get the greatest result. So when you're starting your meeting, if you say, what was your high for the week? What was your low for the week? That's a really good way of just getting that out of there and just putting it out there so that we can go, I could remember, maybe I could see you in the corridor and go, hey, how's your kid's finger? And the amount of rapport that builds and trust that builds with that one comment, because that was their low for the week, is extraordinary. But to do that, you had to be creative for an opening of your meeting that takes 2 minutes just to say that. And isn't that amazing? So what is it that you want, I guess, is the first thing about, why do we need to be creative? Well, where's my gap? My gap is relating to my people, or my gap is, getting my people to buy in, or hearing what my people think really need to be done, because they're all quiet because they're just waiting for me to tell them what to do. And I just wish that they would respond and share. But maybe it's because you don't want to be creative. You just want to dot I's and cross T's and tell them what to do. So when you need them to share, they're not sharing because you've conditioned them as a leader to just wait for your instruction, which means it puts all the pressure on you to run the team rather than the team self-lead. So it's an interesting one. So that could be one. Just how do I do something a little bit different at the beginning of my meetings? And if you want to connect with me, I can give you a whole bunch of different ideas or ways that are pertinent. But I will ask you questions first. And my questions to you is, where's the gap? What do you really want to accomplish? Creativity for creativity's sake, to me, it can be interesting, but people could then end up going, well, this is a bit of a waste of time. So we just want to know, what is the outcome that you'd like? What's the better version of that meeting? That if we did something, this would be the better meeting. A meeting where there's not so much conflict, there's not so much tension. That question of the high and low for the week shows people that we're not all there pretending to be perfect, that we do have challenges, and that we're human beings, not job titles.
And I like that. We're human beings, not job titles.
Yeah, and that's just it's a remarkable shift in the feeling of the room, for example. So, I mean, I find that one to be really, and you can do that at the dinner table. What was the high moment for today? What was your low moment for today? And half the time you'll go, I didn't know about that. You talk to your spouse and you go, did you know that they had that challenge at school where, that happened and they felt bad? And they was like, no. And it was just like, okay, well, I mean, you can start to solve some problems that are irking your kids, or that, maybe your spouse goes, yeah, my low for the day was this. They didn't want to tell you because it would have been a downer, and they saw you were stressed, so they just kept it to themselves. But that just manifests itself in stress and discomfort and poor communication in the family level, and you can do it anywhere. So I guess that's one. I've only given you one tip, but there's one. You want another one?
Any other tip apart from this one?
No, that's the only tip.
Oh, I see.
No,
I see.
there's there's lots of tips. I mean, there's different ways to
The
take
other one
notes.
I know for sure is to make an award using that star and the toilet plunger. That is also
Yep.
a good one.
Think
Yeah.
of come up with 10 ways to use a toilet plunger.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's there's lots of different things. There's lots of different things you can do. I mean, if there's an event coming up, how do we make this more interesting?
Hmm.
There was one group where when I said that you don't usually get the same speaker in every year
Hmm.
early on. Well, there's one client I had. They brought me in for 7 years straight, and I was partly because I the team that was running the annual town hall event for all of their staff wanted it to be creative.
Hmm.
They wanted to communicate it in a really cool way. So, for example, the World Cup football was on, and um, and so my idea for them was, the simple idea is we all dress up as a different team.
Hmm.
But my idea was actually the team is the audience. The audience are your star players. So you're not going to dress up as star players. You're going to dress up. This is for all the execs who are coming on stage, or all the people coming on stage. And this particular organization had a bit of a brand, to be playful. So um, you're you're going to come on stage as the support staff and the coaching staff and the physiotherapists and the referees and all of this for the football event, but all the star players are in the audience. We're not going to tell them that they're the star players until some point during the conference, where we're going to go, you may have noticed that we've had the physios come on and tell you this. HR, I think, were the physios when the HR department came to do their update, and they're in like lab coats and stuff like this. We had a couple of people come out as referees. They were in like finance or something. They were the referees. It all matched their department, yeah,
Hmm.
and so it was quite cool. And the audience. What's great about it is that the audience are anticipating. I wonder what the next group are going to be like. This is
Hmm.
fun. It's just a bit different. Um, and then the CEO could say, the real stars, we're all doing this to support you. You're our star players. You're our star recruits. You're the ones who go out there and kick the goals.
Hmm.
Our job is to help get the obstacles out of the way so that you can score your goals, to hit our
Hmm.
targets, to do all of this. And they
Hmm.
loved it, so they did that one.
Hmm.
The one that I always suggested to them that they didn't do was that it was the superhero theme. I mean, I'm back to Batman again, but it was the superhero theme where everybody in the audience under their chair would have a mask, but they
So
didn't
cool.
know. It's so cool. And they were the superheroes, and everybody on stage was the sidekick. So, like,
Oh,
everyone on stage was like Robin or something else, and maybe a couple of them were villains.
that's woke. They didn't go for it.
Well, we always came up with other ideas or themes and stuff, but that one was the one where it's
That is
just like,
woke.
ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great one. So it's it was just like you guys are the superheroes. We're your sidekicks. We're here to help you. Which was again flipping it to we're going to direct what needs to happen for us to win, but you guys are the superheroes going out there to win it. Okay, panel's not really going to work, but how about we have a game show? And they were like, tell us more. I go, the game show will be you're going to tell me a whole bunch of stuff. Each of you are going to tell me some stuff about you that nobody really knows. And and each of you will then have a card with a photo of one of the other
Hmm.
members of the panel, including yourself, to use. And I'm going to ask the question, okay, who here, and the audience is going to also be involved. And I'm going to ask the question, who here did this, for example? And then the
Hmm.
audience will vote, and
Hmm.
they'll all be shouting out who they think it is. And then
Hmm.
you're all going to put up your panel of who you think it is. And then I will reveal who it
Who did
actually
it?
is,
Yeah.
and we'll give points. So I had somebody sitting on an Excel thing, and that was up on the projector, and everyone was getting points. In fact, if you go into YouTube and look up me and I think it was American Express or team building at American Express or something or other, you will find it. It's because it's 1,000 years old. It's the world's oldest video, but it's very funny. One of the questions was which person on this panel, when they were at university, was the head of the cheerleading squad, and so they all chose this good-looking member. I think she was either the head of HR or finance. Everyone was shouting out her name. And also, I'd asked everybody else a question about everyone else, so they were expecting it to be her because she was the only one I hadn't asked a question about. And they all shouted out, and it was actually this big, tall, balding guy was the head of the cheerleading squad. And I go, well, actually, it was him, and everyone's in stitches. And then I go, well, what would tell us about that? And he goes, well, I mean, all the girls were on the cheerleading squad. They're not playing football, so I wanted to be where the girls were. So I was that. And I was just like, how smart is that?
Yeah,
Very
that's
clever. And then you build him up as a hero for being strategic and clever, even from there. And now he's in charge of some sort of strategy. I mean, it was fantastic. So they loved it. And I loved it too. It was a really fun. That one was extraordinarily creative. I mean, I've got them. I even wrote a sketch for them to do a whole summary of the day and Q&A and everything else. We're up there just reading it, but it was very funny. So it's like you can make an event fun and get the message across in a way that sticks. Because if they're bored and playing with their phone, they're not listening to your message.
Yeah.
But if they're engaged and staring at the stage or staring at you on Zoom and going, what on earth are they going to say next? When you share something, you go, oh my gosh. And then you go, now go away and share that. Discuss what are the three best things about that. The fact that we're going to do this. You know, for example, if I'm one of the other ones, here's a last idea that you can do. You want to implement a change in your organization. This is one of my favorites. You want to implement a change in the organization. So you've got everyone together in a room or on Zoom or something like that. And you've gone, okay, so I want them to tell me the risks of this change. But I also want them to tell me what's great about it. So here's my first question. What's great about working at this organization? Go away to your Zoom room or your breakout. You got 2 minutes to come up with as many things that's really great about working for this organization. And then they come up with this huge list of why this organization is awesome. So now I've created a foundation of why we like this organization, which is really, really important because I'm about to tell you about a change that's going to happen that's going to upset a few people. But remember, we really like this organization. So having that as my foundation is really important. Then the second thing is, you've heard the CEO talk about this initiative that we've got coming up, and we're going to implement this change. There'll be an opportunity in a moment to tell us about some of the risks about this. But for now, tell me what's really great about this change. Come up with as many things about why this is a really good thing to do. You got a few minutes, go. And they come up with as many things as they can. They have to put them in the chat box so that we've got this huge list of great reasons. Or if it's live in a room, they're writing it on sticky notes and we're putting it around the room and various things. I facilitate all of this. And then we get to the point of, so now we have a list of why the change is great. And then it's like, okay, so what are some of the risks about this change that we really should consider to make sure that we get this right? And then they put all of that up. So so now I've built the foundation of this tower. The foundation is, this is a great organization to work in. Then the second level is, this is a great change initiative that we're about to put in.
Yeah.
And then the next level is, we need to be careful about this part, but the foundation is solid that this is good. We're in a good place. This is a good change. We need to do it. And I'll ask them, why is this urgent? Why now? Why can't we put it off till next year? And then they'll go, well, the reason why now. And they have to think of reasons why now. And they'll go, it's now because of this and this and this and this. So instead of selling them as to why it has to be now, I've got them to sell themselves on why it has to be now. And they're telling me why it has to be now. I go, I'm convinced it has to be now. And they're convinced because they came up with all the solutions. And then we send it out to everybody else.
All came from them.
Came from them. And I just reiterate what they said. I believe that they hear these five, but I'm waiting for them to say it. And I'll go, oh, Gurpreet said this. He said this was the reason why it was, and that's a really great reason. That's a really great reason why we need to do this. And Salim said this, and oh, that's another great reason why we should do it. So, thank you for those reasons. And these are echoed in some of the reasons why the CEO wants to do them as well. So well done, guys. And then we move on to whatever the next thing is. So it's creating a foundation of this is a great place to work. I mean, I did this and everybody's complaining about IT and this other department and now we're doing this and this other change is happening and communication's not happening between departments and all these sorts of things. So I start with what's great about this organization. Invariably in this one organization I did, what's great about this organization is we get these great challenges. And I go, what's challenging about this organization? And they go, all the challenges. So you go, so what the problem with the organization is all these challenges, but what you told me earlier is you love the
That's
challenges because
also
they help
something
you
you love.
grow. Yeah. So now I associate the fact that you've told me that you like challenges. Here are some new challenges. And so and then they just then we go into what I call a solution storming session where we go, well, if that's the risk or the thing that we really need to look at, then let's now work together in teams to come up with as many solutions as we can for that particular risk. So what's one of the challenges that we're facing right now? Staff are but it's not always the case, but in some organizations, our staff are leaving. Okay, so how do we turn that into a positive sounding question? How do we stop our staff leaving? Well, no, that's not a positively sounding. How do we make it positive and empowering? Okay, how do we make this a place that people want to stay, that people love to work here? Okay, great question. Now let's solve that problem. And if we create that, if we implement that solution, people won't want to leave. We got to pay them well. We got to, or at least we got to not be the worst payer in the market. So we got to address that issue. But we also got to make it like it's growth oriented. They're learning something. People are developing. They've got opportunities. They've got promotion prospects. They're recognized for their work. They're encouraged. Their opinions are valued, and of course they like this session because I'm valuing their opinions. But so there's different ways to creatively engage our people so that they're coming up with creative solutions to the problems that your organization is facing, and you don't always have to solve it with a checkbook.
I
because
like that.
because you can solve anything with a checkbook, but you can come up with creative ways to do it, which save you a lot of money. And for people in the C-suite level, that is attractive. So implementing this can save a lot of cash.
I think, Tim, apart from people getting a lot of cues on how to get started on their creative journey, a lot of facilitators like myself are going to get a lot of ideas from the tips you've just shared. I especially like the balloon idea. So I don't know, maybe when the times are safer and people are not really skeptic about it, I'd love to try that. I like the plunger and the star idea for creating that kind of engagement and levity in the group. I like that insight that you make sure that whenever you start a keynote, you get hold of the photographer and get him on stage. I think that's also dope. Uh, but I think what I like the most and what's very discernible and conspicuous from your conversation is your need to, I won't say do better than your previous stint, but I think the need to do different than your previous stint. And I think if that behavior gets instilled, you very naturally and very invariably get better at what you do. And the fact that, Tim, you don't come across as a person who takes life very seriously. You do take your job seriously from the anecdotes that you just described to me, but I don't think so that you take your life seriously, and that makes it a complete joy to interact with you, Tim. I don't know where to get started because I have got so many pages filled, so I really don't know which one to take and which one to retain. But I think what I'm taking from this conversation, which I'm going to remember, is that creativity is about two things. It's about communicating and solving problems. I like that fact. I like the fact that to get started in your creative journey, the example that you gave, that you need to start working on relationships and engage people, you need to ask this fundamental question where the gap lies. Otherwise, creativity is going to be a huge gambit. I like the anecdote of when you are giving people, give me 10 uses of brick. You came up with this entire context that, okay, give me 10 uses of a brick in a kitchen or on a boat, or if it was a superhero. And I just
Think
think,
inside the other box.
yes, think inside the box. And I just called it constrained freedom for some time. And I think At times when you have the freedom to think without limitation, but within a defined context, it really harnesses creative thinking. Uh, Thank you so much, Tim, for making time for this conversation. I think we spanned over, I think, and my maths is so pathetic, I think 115 minutes, nearly double the time that we usually do, but it went like a jiffy. I thoroughly enjoyed. And as we come towards the culminating point, Tim, tell us about this initiative that you have called Sharpen, because I went through its site, we had a look at it together, and also tell us the philosophy behind this endeavor that you lead called Sharpen.
What I'm trying to do is helping individuals who've decided that they want to advance their career
Hmm.
to have a resource pool of professionals that are there with really interesting advice to help them do that. So
Hmm.
there's four people involved in Sharp, and there is a recruiter. So the recruiter is there if you're going, well, I had enough of this organization, I want to get a job
Hmm.
somewhere else. So the recruiter is going to help you, and some people may have not looked for a job in another organization for the longest time, or they may be in a situation now. So the recruiter's there to be able to help them understand what needs to shift, what needs to change on their LinkedIn profile, how to approach organizations in a different way. Now, depending on the country you're in, there'll be different recruitment specialists in your particular country, but this person's there to advise you on what recruiters are looking for and what the clients are looking for based on their experience of placing hundreds and thousands of people. So so that recruiter's experience is very, very valuable if you're looking for another job. But maybe you've got a job and you just want to super perform in that job. So we have
Hmm.
John Merkus, who's a agile specialist, whose job is to help teams get stuff done faster. In other words, increase
Hmm.
productivity, get projects done, and get them done quicker
Hmm.
to be able to solve that problem. So he helps leaders and team members and project managers understand how to get those things done faster. Then there is me, who helps out from the promotion pay rise side. So I made a series of programs
Yeah.
called Promotion Pay Rise, which was how to triple your salary and get promoted twice within 18 months. And the
Hmm.
idea there is not to just wait, but to get to be noticed and get promoted, but is
Yes.
how to move from invisible to visible, how to get how to increase your profile within the organization, have multiple opportunities within the organization to get promoted, what to do, and strategies to be able to actually do it. Sharpen is about career acceleration for you, and that thought leadership profile is also about how to position yourself and your business in a way that is going to attract more readers, more leads, more connections, and more sales and business growth for you as well. So that's what Sharpen's all about, and you can access that at sharpen.me/now, and you can have access to all the programs that we've recorded as well as the ones that we do live, and you can connect with each of us if you want to. If you want to just connect with me, you can shoot me an email at tim@timwade.com. I'm happy to have a chat about anything that you want to connect with regards to your organization too.
All right, Tim, sharpen.me/now. That's a place where I think you all should, including me. I mean, I've already checked it out. Amazing stuff out there in terms of raising your thought leadership or getting tips on how to progress in your career. Tim, I am legit saying that this is the first time in the 10 episodes that I've shot so far for Creativity Roots that we've extended almost by double time. But I don't see any kind of fatigue happening. I think you are an amazing storyteller. And like I said, you use levity really effectively. And you have this knack of telling anecdotes with so much conviction. And while you tickle someone else's funny bone, you have this knack of staying completely poker face. So I think I'm going to try and imbibe that from you. I'm going to remember the plunger for a very long time, Tim. Uh,
Yes, it's my favorite. And
People
and I am the most
use
recent winner of
plunger.
it, so I haven't had another games night since because I don't want
Your
to.
name also written on top of that. So is this a plunger
Yeah,
that?
I'm the most recent one was me.
Okay,
But
amazing.
but yeah, there's the one that keeps winning is, I think he's a 13-year-old. He's this family that comes over, and they're very intelligent kids. He keeps winning. But I'm not inviting them back again
And
until I've won a
weirdly
few
enough,
more.
you've kept it really close to you, the plunger in your workspace. So that's amazing.
That seems a little bit pathetic, doesn't it?
I'm
But that
totally
was actually because
by the looks
I
of
was
it.
showing somebody else. So yeah, that's why it's there.
But thank you so much.